The Philadelphia 76ers return to the floor on Thursday night against the Boston Celtics, ending their little all-star break hiatus. As they return to the floor, they have 28 games to go during the regular season. And in what has been a season that has been deemed an epic failure to unknown proportions thus far, as the Sixers don't even sit in the play-in round as they go into this second half of the season. The question's out there. Does Nick Nurse survive the season? Sure, I think that there is a high chance that the Sixers let him at least play it out. But will he be the coach come 25-26? I think that is a very fair question to ask. When you have a team that is as high paid as the Sixers with three max contracts of Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George, and for sure, there's been injuries, there's been hurdles, there's been up and downs. You can't all blame that on the coaching staff. But it's going to have to fall on someone. And if you want to compare it to like the Philadelphia Eagles type situation, I look at Daryl Morey as the Howie Roseman type guy who's kind of lockstep with the owner, with Josh Harris, more so that kind of buddy-buddy type relationship, more of a trust there, and the coach is more expendable. Which is why I truly believe there is a good chance that Nick Nurse is out as Sixers coach, depending on the rest of the season. How the rest of the season goes, obviously, is going to go a long way in this. But as they sit here with only 28 games to go, with the play-in looking like the most likely route at this stage of the season, and coming into off the All-Star break, the Sixers have the longest losing streak currently in the NBA, losing 5 in a row, including 2 to the Raptors and the Nets. You know, this could have a totally different tone. Sixers could have some momentum going into this little second half spurt, but instead the Sixers sputtered against 2 of the worst teams in the league going into the All-Star break. And now I really do think Nick Nurse's job status is in question. Will he be fired? Who knows? But I think someone is going to have to fall on the sword, because I don't think ownership is going to be able to look at the coaching, or excuse me, at the fans and all the support around this team and basically say, we're just running it back. No questions asked. GM back, coach back, all the players back, maybe a few slight changes. But I really do think somebody is going to have to fall on the sword. And if you're going to make me pick between Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse, I'm most likely picking Nick Nurse in that situation rather than Daryl Morey. You look at this tweet from Michael KB, who covers the Sixers for a radio station in South Jersey. He goes, personally, I think the Sixers should move on from Nick Nurse after the current campaign. Skeptical that they will, though, but feel like all the injuries this season will buy him another year. And sure, that is a fair point. That is a fair statement to make. And a fair excuse. Like, there was a ton of injuries. We haven't really seen this team at full strength yet. More than like 5 to 6 games, I think, on the season that we've had everyone that's been built on this roster intact and in tow. And that's not really fair to the head coach. But at the same time, it's like, is Nick Nurse getting kind of the Doc Rivers treatment? Is he really just going to ride the coattails of that NBA championship? Sure, winning an NBA championship's tough, but that was many moons ago now. What has he really done since that point? And you could say coaching was involved in that all you want, but still, there was major injury to Kevin Durant in that finals for the Warriors, and Kawhi Leonard went on a superhero run. He had the crazy shot, as we know as Sixers fans, against the Sixers. What has Nick Nurse really done to buy himself another year? The Raptors let go of him for a reason, and he hasn't done wonders with the Sixers team anyway. The only real kind of encouraging sign that I saw from Nick Nurse this year was when the Sixers were on that 6-7 game losing streak a few weeks back, and then they go and they rip off 5 in a row. It sounded like they really responded to the message from him, but now that they've kind of sputtered again, and as I said, they've lost 5 in a row, heading out of the All-Star break. You get to play the Boston Celtics tomorrow night, reigning NBA champions. Sure, at home, that's a nice gift coming out of the All-Star break. No, like I'm probably chalking up that as a potential loss as well. And some people are saying, well, maybe it's what the Sixers needed. They just needed to, get apart, get guys healthy, get Joel Embiid, get Paul George off their feet. Tyrese Maxey have been logging a lot of minutes as well. Get all those guys some rest, and maybe they can come back for the second half. I don't like the term second half just because there's only 28 games left of an 82 game season. But maybe they just need to get off their feet and they can make this push and make this run and just get to the playoffs healthy, which was really the goal at the beginning of the season. But when you kind of look at Nick Nurse's history, like I said, are we kind of just riding the coattails of or the Doc Rivers kind of experience as well? Like, all right, here they go. They won the NBA championship. We talked about that. KD goes down. Maybe that's a different story if he stays healthy, and Kawhi played the best basketball of his entire career. Then they lose in the conference semifinals. They miss the playoffs. They lose in the first round, and then they miss the playoffs again. Then he's fired, and then as we know last year in the first round, Joel Embiid injured again against the Knicks. Kind of plays through it for most of the series with numerous injuries, but they lose in the first round, and now sitting here with 28 games in the season left, the Sixers aren't even in the play-in right now. What has he done? Like, what can you point to as a Sixers fan and say, I want him as my coach. He does this well. He does this well. He does this well. I don't really think that there's anything. Like I said, the only thing I bought in for him this season was they were able to respond to his criticism and his kind of outbursts after that drubbing by the Denver Nuggets. Besides that, what can you really point to and say that he's done? I think you can question the team's effort at a lot of times this year. You could question the utilization of Paul George. Obviously, Joel Embiid not being in the lineup for a bulk of the season, a majority of the season, has plagued this team and has probably plagued what his vision, what the system for this team was. But at the same time, he hasn't really utilized his options, I think, to his best of his ability, and he hasn't gotten his guys to play hard. And I think that's the main kind of job of an NBA coach. 9 times out of 10, it's about what team really kind of wants to be there, what team shows up in the regular season. Sure, the playoffs is a different story, and playoffs coaching comes into it even more. But I don't think there's one thing that you could point to and say that Nick Nurse has excelled at this year at a super high level that should buy him another year if the Sixers don't wind up even making the plan. And I think you could kind of look too, based off of the moves Daryl Morey made at the trade deadline. I think he made moves both for the immediate future, like right now, the rest of the season, but also like for his job down the line. Like he made moves to buy room for cap space for Yabu. He made this Lonnie Walker signing yesterday to get him for next year. He made the Quentin Grimes trade. He made the Jared Butler trade. Are those moves making the Sixers immediately better this year? Who knows? Maybe, the jury's kind of still out on that. But you look at the future; those are all young guys with potential as well. That he's like, all right, I still have the ability to kind of mold and build this team. I think if Daryl Morey leaves, it'll be on kind of his own terms and a parting of the ways. If Nick Nurse leaves, it's going to be because, like I said at the beginning of the video, someone has to fall on the sword and take the blame for this whole situation. But I think you can look at and point at the moves that the Sixers made at the trade deadline and say, like, all right, Yabusele wasn't moved. Kelly Oubre wasn't moved. Those are two guys that were kind of hot commodities at the trade deadline, potentially on team-friendly deals. You look at them and you look at both of them as pieces for next year. Quentin Grimes, you go out and acquire him. He's a guy who's a restricted free agent last year, but you're going to give him an extended look. He's having a career year this year shooting the basketball. You're going to give him minutes, so it's not like it was a steep downgrade. Caleb Martin goes, KJ Martin goes. Huge pieces, no, but still not, seismic kind of we're tanking the rest of the season type moves. Then you bring Lonnie Walker over from Europe. Like the Sixers, I think all their moves pointed to we still believe we could compete like right now. And Daryl Morey even said at the trade deadline, like if you squint just hard enough, I still think this is a championship team. Do I think that is in the scenario right now? No. Like the Sixers are 40-1 right now at DraftKings Sportsbook just to win the East. This is pretty much, we're just going to make the playoffs. That's kind of how you look at it as potential success at this point. But Nick Nurse, I really do think, is coaching for his job over the second half of the season. Like, if you don't make a run at this thing and you don't look better in spurts, especially when the team's fully healthy, why run it back next year? The fan base will not be bought into that at all. And I could see it being a scenario where you go into next season, you start out 3-7 in your first 10 games, you got a quick hook there. Why not just have a full offseason of a new coach? Nick Nurse has the ability to kind of not completely rewrite the narrative, but 28 games to go. If he gets this team to go, 18-10, 20-8, something like that, play really good basketball, build really good momentum, sure, he buys himself another season. But I still think he's underperformed as a coach this year, and it's fair to wonder if he will be back next season. When you look at the standings kind of the rest of the way here, sitting at 20-34, like, all right, you thought the Nets were going to be a layup last week when the Sixers played them. You thought the Raptors would be layups. Those are games that's on coaching I point to. Like, the coach has to get them ready. I know the All-Star break was coming up. People just wanted to get away, get out of town. But at the same time, those are games that you have to win if you're making this playoff push. The Bulls and the Nets are two of the Sixers' next 4 games as well. But after that, like, you dug yourself in such a deep hole. Are you going to be able to catch the Hawks? Are you going to be able to catch the Magic? Are you going to be able to catch the Pistons? I don't think so, unless you really start to play some lights out basketball over these next few months. You're most likely looking at play-in or bust, and I don't think the Sixers are going to be able to fall into that bottom 6 to feel secure enough that they're going to get that pick. As we know, the Sixers pick is top 6 protected. If it falls out the top 6, then it would be awarded to the Thunder. If it is within the top 6, and the Sixers get it. But it's still like a big risk to play, and I don't think Nick Nurse's job is safe enough where he can basically like have an agreement with Daryl Morey and the front office and the ownership and basically say, all right, we're just going to kind of mail it in, play the young guys, give Justin Edwards, Quentin Grimes, Jared Butler, Tyrese Maxey all the minutes that they need. Shut down Embiid, shut down Paul George. I really do believe Nick Nurse is coaching for his job. Let me know what you guys think below in the comments. Is this on Nick Nurse? Is it his fault that guys have been injured? What have you seen from him that you could say, I want him back next year as head coach? Or do you think it is a situation where maybe Daryl Morey's on the outs? Let me know in the comments below. As always, please drop a like, drop a subscribe. We'll be here for the rest of the season, the rest of the 28 games, and then obviously evaluating everything else here on Sixers Digest.